what action are you going to take against the finance minister?
Well, it's not just the finance minister. As you know, it goes right up to the president.
I'm talking about the criminal charges being laid.
Both the criminal charges that we're going to lay will start with the president and the finance minister based on the specific Transnet dossier. But of course, if you read what we revealed today in the context of the emails as well, then you know that the rot is everywhere in government, really. And we're just doing what we have to do. It's not the first time that we're laying criminal charges. We have done so many times, and we know that South African authorities are not going to take any action. We doubt that these cases are even investigated. But thankfully, in this case, there's also an international connection with the Transnet tender. So we're hoping, that is why we're going to also be reporting to international authorities. So hoping that other countries will then at least prosecute their companies that are involved in this ring of criminality. And through that, they might also get to the South African parts of the criminality. If you remember, as an example, in the FIFA scandal, that people, those who were involved in the FIFA scandal, even though those who were outside of America, were fingered, because in terms of American law, as long as you involve an American company, you can still be prosecuted under their law. All
right, I want to get to all those companies and the locomotives deal because it's massive. But starting with the finance minister, there's a bit of smoke. There are things that seem quite coincidental. He put people in place as the Minister of Public Enterprises. They went on to be implicated in various matters. However, do you believe, even if you got a fair hearing, that a judge could really convict our finance minister because there's no direct implication?
Well, but
there's no smoking gun.
Well, the smoking gun is in the emails. I mean, it has all come out. The good thing about the emails is that people are mentioned by name. It's not innuendo.
But what is enough for him to be criminally convicted?
Well, we think that there is enough for us to lay charges. Obviously, like all criminal charges, those would have to be investigated. But they would have to be investigated by people who are looking to get to something. You know, we've laid charges against Zuma, we've laid charges against Gigaba, we've laid charges against the Guptas themselves, and no action has been taken. The first action in any criminal matter is the investigation, because if the investigation doesn't take off, then obviously you'll never get a conviction.
Corruption is hard to prove.
Well, it's hard to prove. It's been made much easier in South Africa with the current Corruption Act, because it goes much wider than the previous laws. The mere involvement in a scheme, there are certain presumptions that are made. But again, the point of the matter is that you need the political will and willing agencies that are not themselves captured.
All right, let's look at the Transnet deal and just outline for viewers what you think is going on here. So what I've seen, the bids came in for each locomotive, and I think it's nice to look at each one, for around 30,000 Rand each. Then there was an agreement that there would be accelerated delivery. So suddenly they go from around 30,000 across 4 companies to around 50,000 in some cases, and that's for accelerated delivery. They haven't been delivered. Does that outline what's going on here?
Look, in a nutshell, this is what happened. It was around 30 million per locomotive, as you say. There was a negotiation, and the price, I think, went down to 27 million. And then these Gupta advisors were brought in, and suddenly the price went up to 42. Instead of going down. You would have expected that when advisors come in, they might even bring the price even lower down. And what we suspect happened is that the inflation of the price has 2 implications. One, it was the top-up of which comes up to the 17.4 billion corruption that we talk about. But also... So
you're saying this was a bogus inflated price. We're going to pretend that these trains will come earlier than expected, but actually we're just adding onto the price, and that will go to us and our friends. Is that the claim?
Absolutely. That's what happened. But more importantly and more sinister is the fact that the new price, the eventual price, was now higher than what the losing bidders had bid for, which means that people had lost this contract on the pretext that their prices were inflated. Meanwhile, in the end, their prices were even lower than what was finally paid. So clearly, the country lost out. The third aspect is that our research shows that the prices that South Africa pays for these locomotives are higher than any other country in the world, and therefore it was clearly inflated.
I have a lot of questions to ask. Eskom has sued coal suppliers who don't stick to contracts. Why are we not suing people who haven't delivered on time?
Absolutely.
But having said that, we've got 4 companies here. We've got a company from Canada, China, the United States. How is everybody involved?
Well, obviously,
because somebody would have had to known that something was really wrong and blown the whistle somewhere along the line, seemingly.
Well, they did. That's why we're here. That's why I'm talking to you now. It's because somebody blew the whistle.
Do you think these companies colluded? General Electric, the Chinese companies, Bombardier?
Well, we don't know what role each one specifically played, but clearly they were part of this. Some of them were victims, some as perpetrators, and that's exactly what needs to be uncovered. And what we do know for a fact is that those who lost through this corruption. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, one doesn't have to be a top investigator to realize that a price of 27 million per locomotive cannot just go to 42 through the involvement of a Gupta company. I mean, I suppose at this stage of our lives in South Africa, the mere involvement of a Gupta company as so-called advisors, the so-called board committee that was put aside by Transnet to adjudicate this particular bid was made up of known Gupta acolytes, and those people are people who have been fingered in the emails. So all this cannot be a coincidence. As I say, one can uncover and see the pattern, the role of the minister, the role of the board, the particular board members, and of course the role of the international companies.
So Dali, a big question here is how state-owned entities are being used. Big deals, big corruption can be hidden. If you throw stones, I hope you do expect this question, because you were once the CEO of the SABC.
Sure.
So did you take a secret golden handshake in 2009 when you left?
No, I didn't take any secret golden anything. Like you, if you get fired tomorrow before your contract, the chances are, and you win your case, the chances are they'll pay you for the rest of the unexpired portion of your.
Have you been transparent about all the payments, things that happened?
There was a press conference here actually where it was all announced and it's all in the papers. I don't think, we're talking about the stealing of a country here. Our country as South Africans is being stolen in front of our eyes. And you come here and talk about
we all have to
labor law settlements.
No, but we all have to be transparent then. And I think one of the things that irks people is that a lot of managers are being moved in, moved out, taking a lot of money with them. Do you not agree that maybe is an issue? And maybe we should say, if taxpayers' money is being used, there should be no handshakes. Which
taxpayers' money are you referring to?
For state-owned entities. I'm saying, shouldn't we become very transparent around state-owned entities?
Yes, we should. And we should do what the SABC did, which is to call a press conference. You can't be more transparent than that. I don't know what you are going on about. I'm talking to you about the Ministry of Finance, the Treasury, trillions of rands. Your livelihood, your children's livelihood, your grandchildren's livelihood being stolen by a mafia state, and you come and talk to me about petty nonsense.
I'm just saying that's a question that's been raised in relation to you. Do you not believe that that's fair enough to bring up?
No, I think it's unfair. I think it's actually completely irrelevant. If you want to interview me about my life, you are welcome to. I'm here as a representative of the EFF, which has just uncovered 7.4 billion.
Of him, because if you want to throw stones, that's all I'm saying. Should we be
very transparent? No, we're not throwing any
here?
Stones. We're saying this thing goes beyond political parties. It goes beyond the EFF. It goes beyond you and me. This is a matter for all South Africans, the churches, the schools, everybody. I cannot believe that South Africans can actually sit here and pretend it's business as usual. We're not talking about, when we're talking 17.4 billion rand, this is one tender in one SOE. Just imagine the scale of the theft that is going on in this country.
You say that the authorities are not going to take this up. What are you going to do then?
Well, we're going to do what we're doing. We talk to you, we talk to South Africans, we appeal to South Africans, we go to court, we go to parliament, we do whatever it is. This is our country. We don't have any other country. If we don't save it by whatever lawful means necessary, as we have said, if South Africans don't stand up and look at petty issues such as you are doing and not realize that we're drowning, the country is actually drowning. By the time there's no country left, it will be too late to say, okay, what do we do now? There's nothing you can do. We'll reach a stage, a point of no return, where there's no country left, there's no legal system left, there's nothing to call South Africa. And if we don't act now to ensure that that doesn't happen, then we must have ourselves to blame. At least we can say we played our part to alert the country. Anybody can play whatever part in whatever space they are in.
Yeah, and does this help you politically, or do you believe that this is for the good of South Africa?
No, it may or may not. That's why we said we're appealing to South Africans, because if we lead a march about it, it's going to be seen as politicking. This is a serious matter that is, the EFF, the ANC, and all these things will come and go. But this country, there's only one country that we have. And if we don't act to save it, I can tell you now, then we are doomed. Not only are we doomed, but this continent will be doomed.
All right. Thank you for your time this evening.
It's a pleasure.
The National Chairperson of the EFF, Dali Mpofu.